Hey everyone, welcome back to the Board Game Spotlight. Today we're going to look at Extraordinary Adventures from Forbidden Games, designed by Glenn Drover. It's for 2 to 5 players, and it plays in about 45 to 60 minutes. So let's take it to the table, and I'm going to tell you about it. So today we've set up a 2-player game of Extraordinary Adventures, and the first thing you'll notice is we have a number of different resource cubes all over the board. These are merchant ships that players can plunder, take their resources, and then turn those in later at the various port towns in order to gain treasures from that town. Each deck is going to have the same 10 cards in it. You're going to have a Sailing Master's Mate, which has a base movement of 3. You're going to use these cards to move your ships from the different port towns, and you're going to move them along these tracks. So the Sailing Master's Mate lets you move 3 or to discard a card from your hand. Now that's really important because you can get rid of these really pesky lubbers who are just getting sick all the time and drinking your alcohol, doing things that they're not helping. And all they do is give you 1 base movement. You also have an Able-Bodied Seaman, which gives you 2 base movement. So a little bit better, but still not ideal. So on your turn, you're going to have a hand of 5 cards. You're going to choose to play 3 of those, and then at the end of your turn, you're going to draw back up to 5. So on a turn, we could play this Sailing Master's Mate, and then we could get rid of this lubber from our deck. We would not gain the base movement because we chose to use it for its ability instead of the movement. Then we could use this Able-Bodied Seaman to move 2 on the board, and now you're going to have the choice of using one of the 3 tracks. Now you notice there is a blue, a red, and a black track. This is a race to the finish here in Trinidad. So the first person to get to Trinidad is going to end the game, but they won't necessarily win the game. So when you have movement to spend, you have to use it on one of the tracks, and you can't split movement between different ships. So we would not be able to split this 2 movement between 2 ships, but we could take our ship and move it 2 spaces. Now, as we move along the tracks, you're going to notice there are these resource cubes. These are the merchant ships that you can plunder. When you choose to do that, if we were on this space, we could have spent our 2 movement to plunder this merchant ship. We gain these resources, and we get to take the top card of the merchant deck. This is a card that is going to get added into our deck for the remainder of the game. Additionally, we can use these resource cubes when we go into port to gain these treasure tiles. Now, these treasure tiles are end game victory points. They are extremely beneficial for ensuring that you're able to potentially win the game even if you're not first on any of the tracks. So when you go to port, you not only have the opportunity to turn in resources for a treasure tile, but you also get to take one of the port cards. Now these are stronger cards that are not only going to have base movement, but they're also going to have an ability that is specified on a specific track, or maybe they're going to let you move opponents back or move yourself up. So there's abilities on each of these that are really strong. So this is going to let you move 4 on the red track, or you could use this as a base movement of 2 on any of the tracks. And some of the cards are just going to be victory points. So these are going to count towards victory points at the end of the game if that card is in your deck. So after you've played your 3 cards for the turn, you will then draw back up to 5, and play is going to pass to the next player. You're going to continue to go through this sequence. You're going to go through the rounds until a player has ended the game by reaching Trinidad. Now you'll notice the 3 tracks all diverge and they meet here in Trinidad. This is the end of the game. However, victory points are awarded based on the player count. So in a 2-player game, which is what we have set up here, it really is a race to the finish in a 2-player game because you're only going to score points for being first. As Ricky Bobby once said, if you're not first, you're last. So only players in first place are going to score victory points for the different tracks. You can think of these tracks as an area control mechanism where the person who's in first is going to score points for this track, and then you have second, third, and sometimes fourth if you're playing in a 5-player game. You can get off the beaten path a little bit more with higher player counts because you do want to gain these resources by plundering. You do want to enter port in order to gain better cards. And really, even in a 2-player game, you're still going to want to do that because gaining these merchant cards or the port cards into your deck is extremely valuable and very beneficial for you because these starting cards are really, they're quite weak. So you definitely want to use your Sailing Master to get rid of your lubbers, but you also want to make sure that you have more cards in your deck that you can draw. So when a player reaches Trinidad, you'll add up all the points you have. Every 2 resources is worth 1 point. Any of the treasure tiles that you have are worth points, and then you're going to count where you are on the tracks and you're going to be awarded victory points for those as well. The game plays extremely quickly, it's streamlined, it's fast-paced, it's an epic race and deck building game of pirate proportions. The art in this game is absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous. It's drawn by a Disney Imagineer. If you like what you see and you want to know more about Extraordinary Adventures, take a look at the description below for a link to their Kickstarter campaign. This has been Derek with the Board Game Spotlight, and this has been your preview of Extraordinary Adventures.